I've watched a lot of romance anime. The slow burns where it takes 24 episodes just to get to a hand brush. The melodramatic ones where someone dramatically runs through the rain every other episode. The ones that promise romance, but spend 90% of the time on misunderstandings that could be solved with a single text. And I love this genre. I really do. I've cried to Tsukigakide. I've tolerated the bullshit romance of Rent-a-Girlfriend, laughed through Kaguya-sama's hilarious dub, and sat in complete wholesomeness with Komi Can't Communicate and Insomniac's After School. Romance anime is one of the few genres where I willingly sign up to let a drawing emotionally uppercut me. But even with all of that, nothing has lodged itself into my heart quite like Horimiya. Horimiya doesn't have the most tragic backstory, it's not the most visually extravagant, it doesn't rely on supernatural gimmicks or time loops. On paper, it's almost too normal. High school setting, popular girl, quiet guy. But that's exactly why it hits so hard. While other romance anime obsess over if two people get together, what happens when two people who have spent years hiding themselves finally meet someone who sees everything and doesn't look away? That's why out of all the romance anime I've seen, Horimiya sits at the top for me. Not because it's the most dramatic or the most intense, but because it feels like the most emotionally honest. Let's talk about why this simple little high school romance ends up feeling so painfully, beautifully real. And if you like how I did this anime video so far, I'll still drop more like it, but I'm diving harder into horror from here, so if you want in on that and want to help me hit 1000, hit subscribe. Most romance anime start with archetypes: the cool beauty, the clumsy childhood friend, the stoic guy, the sunshine girl. And sure, those tropes can work. I've seen shows use them brilliantly, but a lot of the time, the characters never fully escape their assigned role. They stay the tsundere, the baka, the airhead, even as the credits roll. Horimiya starts with those roles, and then immediately tears them apart. At school, Hori is the classic perfect girl, pretty, socially confident, always surrounded by people. Normally this is where the anime would say, here's your unattainable love interest, good luck. But then we see her at home. The makeup is gone, the uniform is gone, she's in sweats, hair tied up, juggling, cooking, cleaning and taking care of her little brother because her parents are barely around. She's not a school idol. She's a tired teenager who got handed adult responsibilities way too early. Meanwhile, Miyamura at school is basically furniture. The quiet, gloomy background guy. Glasses, long hair, soft voice. He might as well have irrelevant written on his forehead. But outside school, piercings, tattoos, hair tied back, an entirely different aura. He looks cool. Not in the effortlessly popular way, but in the this is who I am when no one's judging me way. In a lot of shows, these double lives would be played as comedy or shock value. In Horimiya, they're treated like something sacred. Their entire romance begins not with a confession, but with the recognition. Hori sees Miyamura's real self, not the quiet boy in the back row, but in this unexpectedly warm, slightly awkward, pierced tattooed guy carrying her brother home. Miyamura sees Hori's real self, not the untouchable class idol, but the overworked homebody in an apron, hair a mess, desperately trying to keep everything together. And the most romantic thing is, neither of them treats the real version as a downgrade. There's no, wow, you're so different now, I preferred you at school. There's just this, oh, so this is you? I like this you. I've seen so many romance anime where the entire drama hinges on the fear of being rejected once your true self is revealed. Horimiya flips that on its head. The second their masks comes off, their relationship begins. For two characters who have built their entire lives around performing a role, Hori as the reliable golden girl, Miyamura as the unremarkable nobody, having someone look at the unfiltered version and stay, that's the show's first big declaration of love. Not, I like you, not, I've always watched you from afar, but I know who you are when the world isn't looking, and I'm still here. That's the kind of romance anime that sticks with you long after it's finally ended. Most romance anime treat getting together like a final boss in a video game. 12 episodes of build-up, one confession, maybe even a kiss, and then fast forward to happily ever after. The emotional arc ends the moment they become a couple. Horimiya looks at that and goes, okay, but what now? Hori and Miyamura get together early compared to most of the genre, and instead of the story losing tension, it becomes richer because of it. Because now we're not watching, will they fall in love? We're watching, can two people with baggage they don't fully understand yet actually handle being loved? Let's start with Miyamura. At the beginning, his self-worth is basically non-existent. Years of bullying and isolation ingrained this belief in him that other people are just elsewhere, that he's a background character in his own life. Every time he's invited into a space, he acts like someone accidentally opened the wrong door and let him in. So when Hori starts paying attention to him, really paying attention, he doesn't know what to do with it. When she gets jealous, when she clings to him, when she confesses in her own blunt, Hori kind of way, you can feel that part of him that goes, why me? Are you sure? Are you really sure? And the show doesn't solve that with one magical, you're special to me speech. His insecurity doesn't just disappear because he got a girlfriend, it softens over time through dozens of tiny, ordinary moments he shares with her. Hori casually reaching for his hand in public, friends calling his name and actually wanting him there, people laughing at him instead of at him. Those surreal little flash forwards to a future Miyamura who looks back on his younger self with his heartbreaking mix of sadness and gratitude. You made it. You were so lonely, but you made it. On the flip side, Hori's arc isn't about learning to love. She already loves with her whole being. Her issue is that she's always in control. At school, she controls her image. At home, she controls the house. She's the responsible one, the dependable one, the one person who has to keep moving because if she stops, everything falls apart. Loving Miyamura means letting someone into that chaos. It means letting herself be not okay. Her jealousy, her possessiveness, even her slightly twisted fantasies about him being more rough or assertive with her, where other shows might play those traits as red flags or cheap jokes, Horimiya instead frames them as the messy, imperfect ways this teenage girl is trying to process feelings she's never had the freedom to focus on. And the key thing? They talk. Not perfectly, not always clearly, but compared to the average romance anime where one misunderstood sentence leads into a 6-episode rift, Horimiya feels almost revolutionary in how quickly it lets its characters be honest. I was jealous. I was scared you'd leave. I'm not used to this. I like you so much it kind of hurts. The drama doesn't come from artificially separating them, it comes from watching them slowly choose to trust that this person isn't going to vanish if I say what I really feel. I've seen so many shows where the confession is the emotional high point and everything after feels like an epilogue. In Horimiya, the confession is step 1. The relationship is the story, and honestly, seeing love treated not as a reward but as a daily, sometimes awkward, sometimes funny, sometimes painful practice, that's what makes this show feel more grown up than half the mature romances that exist. Another thing that makes Horimiya stand above so many other romance anime I've seen is that it understands something really simple and really sad. High school doesn't last. I know that sounds obvious, but so many anime treat schools like a timeless bubble. Characters exist in this endlessly looping springtime. They never really confront the idea that one day, these hallways will just be gone. Horimiya doesn't let its characters avoid that. From pretty early on, there's this slow, constant hum of time passing. Seasons change, classes shift, people drift in and out of lives a little. New dynamics even begin to form. The romance isn't happening on a frozen stage. It's happening in a life that is moving forward whether they're ready to or not. And the show, it makes a brilliant choice. It doesn't just focus on Hori and Miyamura. We get Toru, who could have easily been written as the nice guy rival stereotype. He likes Hori. He loses to Miyamura in a lesser series that would turn into bitterness or a full subplot of pettiness. Instead, Toru becomes one of Miyamura's closest friends. He hurts, he grows, and he remains kind. We get Yuki, sweet, insecure, quietly struggling with feelings of inferiority, especially compared to characters like Hori. Her little arc with other characters isn't flashy or dramatic, but it's just as emotionally honest. She feels left behind, she feels not good enough, and the show never mocks her for that. We get Sengoku, Remi, Sakura, all woven into this tapestry of people who are also longing, doubting, and trying. The point is, Horimiya doesn't say, once you find romance, everything else disappears. It says, romance is just one part of this messy, bittersweet thing called growing up. And then when we reach graduation, I genuinely love how understated it is. No over-the-top promises about staying together forever, no cosmic declarations about destiny, just this warm, aching awareness that we won't always be in the same place anymore, but what we had here was 100% real. For Miyamura, this lands especially hard. This is the guy who once believed he could vanish from school and no one would notice. To see him at the end, surrounded by people who would absolutely notice if he disappeared, that's the show's quiet miracle. One of my favorite emotional beats is that the sense he has of wanting to go back and tell his past self, you are going to meet people who love you. You are not going to be alone forever. That, to me, is the heart of Miyamura. Yes, it's a romance. Yes, Hori and Miyamura are beautifully weird and hilarious together, but it's also about friendship, about time, about the simple fact that the versions of ourselves who thought, I'll never be loved like that, were wrong, and somehow that message lands without melodrama, just through shared lunches, after-school walks, dumb jokes, and one final goodbye to a classroom that used to feel like a prison and now feels like a memory he wants to protect. Out of all the romance anime I've seen, the tragic, the hilarious, the melodramatic, and the aesthetic heavy, the ones with gods and time travel and alternate dimensions, Horimiya will forever remain my favorite because it feels the most human. It's not about the most painful heartbreak. It's not about the most shocking twist. It's not about a love that defies time and space. It's about a love that survives honesty. Two people meet. They take off their mask. They see the scars, the weird habits, the ugly sides, the insecurities, and instead of stepping back, they step closer. They don't become perfect. They don't fix each other. They just grow, side by side, hand in hand, in all the tiny, uncinematic ways that real relationships are actually built from. That's why when I think about romance anime, I don't just think about the rooftop confessions or the dramatic kisses in the rain. I think about Hori in the kitchen, Miyamura walking home with her brother, a group of friends laughing in a classroom that they'll soon have to leave behind. Horimiya is a truly beautiful romance anime, not because it screams its emotions, but because it quietly insists on this. You deserve to be loved as the person you really are. And you might not meet that love in some grand life or death scenario. You might meet them after school in an apron or on a random walk home. And to me, as someone who's flooded my watch history with romance shows, that's the most romantic thing of all.